Well, we've seen an uptick recently in the number of incidents on buses.
Yeah, mass transit in general,
Ugh.
trains too.
Hi everyone, welcome to today's badge cam lesson here at Active Self-Protection. I am your host, John Correa.
And I'm your co-host, Mike Williver, who is currently on a roll of not forgetting what city it's from.
It's true.
Today's video comes to us from Aurora, Colorado.
Today's video is brought to us by 360 Hazardous Cleanup, your trusted resource for trauma, biohazard, and environmental cleanup and remediation.
Everyday people encounter these unimaginable scenarios of tragedy. We specialize in crime scene and trauma accident cleanup. With over 75 years of combined experience and our compassionate yet professional approach, our teams are able to empower people during these traumatic times.
If you're in need of assistance, call us day or night.
On this bus, you're gonna see a guy come with a knife stuck in his back pocket, and he is on that's him right there. You're gonna see him on a drug and mental illness diversion program here in this town, where he lives in like a halfway house, but the supervisor of the house has called the cops because the dude has a knife and he thinks he's been using drugs, particularly fentanyl, and then he's wandered off. Well, he wandered off and basically committed an armed robbery of a pack of cigarettes because he showed the knife to the clerk. The clerk gave him the cigarettes and said, "Are you gonna pay for those?" And the guy walked out. So now he's committed an armed robbery with that knife. And so then, of course, the officer from that kind of diversion program showed up and the guy pulled a knife on him. So that officer then called for the PD to come and help him. Guy gets on the bus. So as he's getting on the bus, now all the PD is gonna show up. That's where we are right now, including a canine officer. So what you're gonna see happen here in just a second is the officers are gonna come on the bus, again, because he's threatened a probationary officer and committed an armed robbery with that knife, pulled the knife on that probationary officer, and he's probably high on drugs. What a big mess. So now they're gonna see a canine officer. They're gonna try to get this guy into custody and see if they can get him some help and stop his rampage. You can see he's got his hand on his knife there. Other officers come from the middle of the bus. Now, the canine officer is gonna come and sick his very good boy on him. He gets a big bite of him, and now from a second angle, you're gonna see the canine officer grab him. Second officer grabs him and tries to tase him, but it doesn't work. The dog bite's ineffective. So you see two of the officers in the doorway are going to fire a total of 8 rounds at the guy. He did not make it. We have multiple badge cams of what happened. Let's listen in and hear what goes down.
Get off the bus right now. Get on the ground.
Show me your hands. Show me your hands.
Here.
Show me your hands.
Here.
Sit down, idiot. Sit down.
Front. Hit. Good boy. Good boy. Get up. Yeah, fucking help me.
Yep.
Good boy.
You got the knife in his hand.
Yep.
Show your knife. Watch it. What the fuck?
Boost.
Watch crossfire. Watch it. Get off the bus. Show me your hands. Show me your hands. Show me your hands. Show me your hands. What? Get over here. Sit down. Sit down.
Hit. Good boy. Good boy. Get up. Yeah, fucking help me.
Yep.
Good boy.
He got the knife in his hand. Yep.
Show your knife.
Watch out. What the fuck?
Boost.
Show me your hands. Show me your hands. What? Get over here. Sit down. Sit down.
Hit. Good boy. Get up.
shots fired.
On this particular one, there's all kinds of additional badge cam videos. There's links in the description to all of that. They're actually gonna use the dog to drag this guy off of the bus. And then once they get him into custody, they are gonna render aid. It did prove ineffective. Unfortunately, this guy died of his injuries. And so they found methamphetamine, cocaine, fentanyl, and alcohol in his system. He was pretty hopped up on the syrup. And thankfully, none of the officers were harmed and none of the people on that bus were harmed either. I gotta be honest with you, I'm not sure how he kept going with that dog attached to his leg.
Yeah, the tactical fur missile is a real thing. I've seen him in action. No thanks.
You know, Mike, I think if we had what we would call a Taliban quinceañera, this is what we have here. This is just a mess of epic proportions. And I think if you don't have the backstory that this guy has committed an armed robbery, pulled a knife on his probation cop, is already on, in a diversion program for mental illness, for drug addiction, for those kinds of things. So he's got several scrapes with the law and he's walking around with that knife. I think you go, wow, man, this looks like a lot. But given all that, I don't know what else the PD is going to do, but I got to get this guy into custody right now.
Yeah, we talk a lot in this space about training, right? And so if you work in a city, county, town, whatever, and you have public transit, it's probably a good idea for you to get your officers and your deputies over there to an empty bus with some role players and work through some scenarios like this ahead of time. I did it years and years ago as a regular police officer. And you start to realize really quickly, it's absolutely a sardine can in there, and trying to do anything, all your tactics kind of go out the window as far as your ability to strike, your ability to do stuff, because you're such a constrained space. So I think training in this environment is critical. And yeah, look, the police are the lowest rung on the societal ladder. They have to deal with stuff that nobody else can handle, nobody else can deal with. And frequently that involves them bringing violence into the equation as a way of solving a problem. This is a great example of that. Real quick. If you're on this bus, if your creep alarm, your oh no, bad things are happening alarm is going off, get the heck out of Dodge. If you're just one of these people on the bus, I saw some people moved, get off the bus if you can. Break a window out and get off the freaking bus if you can, because things are about to go weird here. I think people probably sense that.
Yeah, big time. As they try to get him into custody, the officer used the taser here, okay, fine. A taser could be a useful tool, except for the only way you're gonna get that taser to work at this kind of distance is to pop him with the prongs and then use the drive stun mode to get neuromuscular incapacitation. So in this case, okay, fine, you got a probe basically in the back of his neck. Two probes very close together. Remember, you got to get at least 12 inches of prong spread in order to get incapacitation. So the drive stun mode gets you the rest of the connection to get NMI on these older units. Taser 10, the new one, is a little bit different. So if that means you got to stick it up his butthole and do another butthole check, I'm tired of talking about butthole checks on the channel, but that's what you get to get the NMI. Otherwise, it's just not going to go. Also here, Mike, nobody's got a great backstop. So the two cops that are here on the bottom of the screen, their backstops people on the bus. The guys on the left, though, those bullets, if they miss, are going to go right through the edge of that bus and into whatever traffic's on the other side.
Yeah, it's a police car, I think, which is fine. We can get a new police car. But my point was this. About this section of the video, I think it's really important to understand what you're dealing with. What are we dealing with here? Is this a less lethal situation? Yes and no. Is it a deadly force situation? Yes and no. But deadly force is certainly on the table. It's certainly justified. This guy has a huge knife and there's people there you're trying to protect. So what else could we do? Obviously, pepper spray is not going to work. We're all too close quarters. This is one time where pepper spray is kind of out of the question, unless we want to get everyone with it. What about a baton to the neck, a baton to the head even? That's a maybe lethal, I guess. But you're able to do almost anything right now because this guy is threatening people's lives. He's potentially going to kill people. He's shown a proclivity for violence with the armed robbery. So I think outside the box a little bit here, because the taser wasn't really a great option, I think, at this point. Again, I'm not an expert on tasers, but I know enough to know that close, the drive stuns is iffy even. So I think maybe something else more approximating deadly force, not involving a firearm, might have come into play here.
So I do have a friend who's a canine cop, and I did run this one by him. He didn't love the process of using the dog in this particular case. I'm not a canine specialist. I don't understand, all the nuances of that. So, hey, if you're an officer that's in the canine unit, you guys deal with the tactical side. I will say, from a general side here, you can see in the bottom left that pupper has a big old bite of this guy's hamstring and his butt crack and his sciatic nerve. Any normal human, that is going to be hugely painful and very effective at getting that guy to stop what he's doing. But when you're high on meth, fentanyl, cocaine, and alcohol at the same time, you may not even notice that that's the case and that dog is chewing on you. So say no to drugs, kids, okay?
Yeah, for sure. Listen, I've seen the immediate aftermath of a law enforcement canine biting a human being more than once, even a cop a couple of times who was in the wrong spot during canine deployment. Listen, it is hard to overemphasize how insanely painful a dog bite is, especially a bite from a dog who's trained to bite and knows where to bite. This is sciatic nerve all day long. It's butt cheek. This is extremely painful. So this should really help to be emblematic of the level of intoxication this guy had to be under to not immediately drop to the ground screaming and crying, because this is a very painful thing to endure. So the fact that he didn't barely even feel it, didn't even register with him, tells me a lot about this guy's condition, and the fact that even the aforementioned baton to the head might not even work because he just doesn't feel anything. This is very close to what someone under the influence of PCP is like to get into custody, and it's next to impossible.
And this is totality of the circumstances. Again, guy's pulled a knife on a cop. He's committed an armed robbery. We know that this guy is big trouble, and I think that pupper is a very good boy. Now, let's look from the perspective of the lethal force. I think that these officers that got in here and went hands-on with this guy, knowing he's got a knife, when he pulls the knife too, so he pulls that big old kitchen knife out of his pocket and they still go hands-on with him. You know, the district attorney, Mike, said that these guys were not only justified, but even heroic to try to go hands-on with this guy. And I really agree. That was really dangerous, but admirable of them to give it a try.
Yeah, 100%. You know, the officer who came up behind the suspect all day long, every day of the week, in any jurisdiction, would have been 100% justified in filling that guy in through the back to stop him from what he was doing. He was approaching innocent civilians with a deadly weapon. So the fact that they went hands-on, I think, is over and above. I don't know that I would have even tried that, because that edged weapons should scare you. If they don't scare you, they should. They're extremely just as lethal as a firearm. And if the person knows what they're doing, even more so. So, yeah, I think it was courageous. I don't know that officers and deputies watching this, I'm not sure I would advise you do that. But if you do that, that's on you. I think at any point during this, after the guy turned and went towards the innocent third parties, they would have been justified in shooting. I think they showed incredible restraint is what I think what I'm trying to say.
I really agree. Want to remember here, this shooting here, he's in a good spot. I get that, okay, wait a minute, I'm close. I have what looks to me to be a good backstop, but remember, you still got to get hits, because the only safe direction here is into the bad guy. Remember, that bus, you know, the exterior of that bus is not going to stop a bullet. It's going through that and into the next car. Now, if that next car is a cop car, okay, fine. But even if it's not, we got a bus full of nuns and orphans on the other side of that. And I'm not saying he shouldn't have taken the shots. I actually think that they were justified, because otherwise that guy's going towards a bunch of people with a knife. But understand, the only safe direction is at the bad guy, and you can only shoot when you are really reasonably confident that you're going to get a hit.
I think this is a good time to bring up confidence. Confidence of a law enforcement officer in many arenas. One is, did you have that conversation with yourself? Can I pull the trigger if I have to? That's the first thing. Number two, is my equipment ready? Do I know I have a round in the chamber? Am I confident in my firearm that it's going to work? Am I confident in my marksmanship that even from this short distance, believe me, you can miss. There's been gunfights from 3 yards away where nobody hit anybody, and like 348 rounds were fired. I'm exaggerating, of course. Am I ready to do this? Is my equipment ready? Am I trained to do this? Am I going to get good hits on target? And I would say, without any hint of reservation, the officer who's badge camera watching ticked all those boxes. He knew he was going to hit what he's shooting at. He knew his firearm was going to go bang when it needed to. And he knew that he could do what he had to do in a moment like this. He'd had that conversation. So if you can't tick all those boxes as a law enforcement officer, fix it. Get the training you need to get. Do whatever you got to do to be in a position to prevail in a situation like this.
Secondary officer that fires here as well, same thing. I think that, you know, again, you just got to be good enough with the gun that you're utterly confident of it. And I really actually liked that the first officer, his muzzle discipline was really pretty good, Mike. And I really like that. This is a crappy situation. It's kind of a Kobayashi Maru. You really can't win in a whole lot of situations here, you know? So yeah, okay, the headline's going to read, cop shoots mentally ill guy. But the guy, again, given the totality of the circumstances, given what has gone out over dispatch, given what you know about what's going on here, this guy needed to get shot. He needed to get stopped immediately. These officers did exactly that. So, you know, I think that they were heroic in trying to get this guy into custody, really did a good job in that, dangerous as that is. And in the end, they had to shoot him. They covered their ass.